What's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review for the film The Woman in the Yard. The Woman in the Yard is a 2025 horror flick by Blumhouse that stars Danielle Deadwyler as Ramona, a woman, a mother, and a widower who is trying to raise her kids after a very tragic accident that involved her and her husband, in which her husband unfortunately passed away and she ended up surviving it. And this woman is pretty much going through it. She's suffering a leg injury. She basically has to be taken care of by her kids. She has a teenage son by the name of Taylor, and she has a little girl by the name of Annie. And they are just basically trying to get everything back on track after the passing of their father and her husband, all while dealing with a strange individual who ends up coming to their home and literally planting themselves right there in the front yard of the house. Have no clue where this person came from, have no clue who this person is, but they're wearing all black, like a veil and a dress, sitting in this real weird looking chair. And they are trying to figure out who in the world this woman is, while the audience at the same time is trying to figure out who this woman is as well. And she basically tells Ramona these cryptic things and all types of stuff like that, anything that could possibly scare who this woman is. And the thing is, you get the idea in the movie that Ramona probably doesn't know who she is, but indeed Ramona does know exactly who this woman is. Now, I won't spoil anything for you and tell you who the woman is, because when it gets revealed, it's like, okay, I see exactly what they did there. One thing that I really did like about this movie is how they took something that could have been cliched and thrown into a drama genre type of film, such as guilt and grief. But I like that they flipped it on its head and decided to say, you know what, we're going to still touch on the topic of guilt and grief in dealing with mourning and loss, but we're going to throw a horror aspect behind it and basically have this woman represent your subconscious. But usually when people deal with grief and mourning and loss, a lot of times some people deal with it internally, or some people, that's why they say people deal with mourning and loss and grief separate than others. Some people will cry about it, some people will go on a binge, some people won't say anything. People deal with grief differently. But to actually see the subconscious come to the surface to the point where not only the person dealing with the loss can see it, but also those around them who it wants to see, who wants it them to see it, can also deal with it at the same time. So I thought that was a very interesting concept with how all of this happened. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was watching the movie, I said one of the worst things that they could have did, and I'm glad this movie did not do it, was go throughout this whole film and not explain where this woman came from or who she is. Because it almost got to that point, but then probably in like the last hour, that's when it started to explain who she is. And that's like, okay. And I'm sitting there putting the pieces together. I said, now all of this is starting to make sense, that of the things that was happening in like the first two acts of the film. And then that's when everything started to come together for me. So I'm very glad that the film did do that. Kudos to Danielle Deadwyler. Definitely a star on the rise. You know, she's doing her thing right now. I think this is her first horror film, if I'm not mistaken, because she's usually typically doing dramatic type of films. So this is her first horror film, and she was the lead. She did a very good job. Also, shout out to the two kid actors, the one playing her daughter and the one playing her son. They also did a good job as well. One thing I do like about horror movies, and I'm finding a lot of horror movies are doing this more and more lately, is the aspect of doing intimate setting, meaning a lot of stuff is happening in one spot, because a good 99.9% of this movie took place in this house. There was only one scene that happened at a restaurant and another one that happened on the road, but that was more of a flashback between Ramona and her husband. Other than that, the rest of the movie pretty much took place around this house or in this house. And I like that they did that aspect. And one thing I also like too, when it even go into the cliche of horror movies, one of the things is that whatever entity seems to be there or wants to be there or haunt literally gets its strength from darkness. Where however, this film is the complete opposite. The entity that is haunting this family, mainly Ramona, is getting its power from the light. So in order for this being to get into the house, it has to get in through the light. And the way that they set it up in order for this to happen, in order for this entity to really maneuver the way that it was, because it got its strength in the light, or it was able to maneuver in light, was pretty genius, if you ask me. Like I said, I want to say it, but I know there might be some people out there that want to see the movie, and I know some people don't like spoilers, so that's why I'm not going into how they executed that and how they were able to pull that off. But they did find a way to do it. Shout out to the special effects, and this is one thing I like about horror movies, because a lot of them don't have a big budget. The whatever budget they typically have does go into special effects. The way that they were able to make the woman move as far as her shadows, and the veil flowing and creepy all over the house, the hands sprawling out and knocking things over and getting into the home and basically becoming this shadow figure, so to speak. It was actually pretty genius. Not being able to see its reflection and all types of things was pretty good. I really did enjoy the aspect of the special effects that they did use, and they didn't overdo it. They only used it when they needed to do it. As a matter of fact, and the thing is, you know how if some people have a home and they have a tree that's naked, and by that I mean it has no leaves on it, and it could be like the fall, when there's no leaves on the trees and the wind might be blowing, and you got a tree with a bunch of branches, and you look at it and it looks like there's its hands coming into the home. That's what they did kind of with her, as far as her hands moving as a shadowy figure in the home. And I wonder if they got inspiration from the scenario I just used, as far as the naked tree shadowy thing in the home when it's no leaves on a tree and it's windy and it's kind of like knocking up against your window. I know that's typically something they use in movies a lot, but I feel like that's something they kind of did with this to achieve the effect. I could be wrong, but either way, that's scary enough, because some people, and I like that they use a shadow figure, because some people out there are scared of their own shadows. So the way that they pulled that off was also pretty amazing as well. Not something you would want to deal with on a regular basis. I'll admit, it was a part in there that was kind of trippy, that I was like saying to myself, I hope they don't go too over the edge with doing whatever it is that they're trying to do, especially because it was something I saw in there that reminded me of a movie that came out back in the 90s. And if you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what film I'm talking about. But they were able to bring it all back together once we understood why she was there. But all in all, I really did enjoy this movie. As far as on a horror element, it was definitely one of the better horror movies that I did see this year, opposed to the one that was supposed to be a horror movie or marketed as one, but then when I saw it, it was all over the place, and the other one that was just mid. This one was actually one of the better ones. I would say it's decent. I wouldn't say it's the best, but I would say that it's definitely ranked higher than the two that I saw back in February. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Will y'all be seeing The Woman in the Yard? Would y'all go see it theatrically, or will you wait for it to come on digital and streaming? Let me know what y'all think down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.